What is up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to episode 13 of Coast to Coast College Pregame Tailgate Show. I'm your host, Uncle Shally. You can call me Stressed Out Shally, Suspended Shally, Sharon Moore Shally, Ready to Jump Off a Bridge Shally. All those things I'll answer to at this point. But we got another great show lined up for you today. Going to start off with a little humor. But honest to God, jam-packed show for everybody today. We're going to go over the coaching carousel, which has turned into a thing all of a sudden. Out of nowhere, we got four vacancies in major programs already. Obviously, always last week's recaps, college football eliminator, which has easily become the most hotly contested, debated topic on the show. Week 12 previews, upset alert, and pick'ems. We got everything. But before we get going, let me introduce you to the two guys here that help me steer the ship every Saturday morning. My man, Carousel Simpson, my Buckeye mother from another mother, about to be my mortal enemy next week. Got one more show left. How you feeling, brother?
I feel good, luckily for me, this week, again, another one, pretty stress-free. So until the big one next week, I'll enjoy it. I'll bask in it. But then, next week I'm ready. This has been 2 years overdue.
We'll see. I'm feeling 3. But before we get into that next week, last and certainly not least, our Mr. West Coast correspondent, Mr. Oregon himself, Hollywood, still putting his makeup on when we start the show. Black Alex Elmore, how are you, brother?
I'm good, man. This week has been stressful. You're talking about stress. My entire Facebook was hacked. My password was changed, email, phone number, everything. So I understand how you're feeling, Bill, but, my stuff actually matters, unlike Michigan. No, but I appreciate you boys as always. It's going to be a wonderful Saturday. I can't wait to get into the topics we got going for everybody today. And thanks for having me as always. And let's get going.
We are going to get going. And like I said, we're going to hop right into coaching carousel out of nowhere. Couple big vacancies out there already. And I think it came to a little bit of surprise. I know we're going to start with Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. He's kind of like my number one, most, I don't want to say hated. I don't hate him, but I've never bought into the hype of Jimbo Fisher. And I know that's kind of hard to say for somebody who's won a national championship, but I also think he just walked into, Jameis Winston just fell into his lap, and he, ended up being one of the best college quarterbacks in the history of football. You have to give him his credit. When he was in Florida State, Jameis Winston was incredible. They went on that magical run and they won the national championship that year. And Jimbo hasn't done anything since. So I will stand. I will firmly die on that hill that was more Jameis than it was Jimbo Fisher. Anybody that would like to debate that, I am all ears for that. But that being said, left Florida State because he thought they weren't committed to winning, which is kind of crazy. Went to Texas A&M, aka took the money. Can't blame him. Listen, you want to go run somewhere and get a bigger paycheck. Can't we criticize it, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of hard to really fault people at sometimes. But it's going to Texas A&M, be very underwhelming if we're being honest. He's had the talent there, he's had the recruits on campus, he's had the players. Can't get over the hump. That goes back to what I said. I don't think he's that good of a coach, and I just don't think he's cut out the coach in the SEC. He's not going to beat a Nick Saban. He's not going to beat guys like that. That being said, me and Carousel, we've talked about this numerous times this year. With the recruiting class he brought in last year, I think we all thought he had this year. Then if he didn't have a good year next year, that was going to be it. Come the middle, we started the week this week, boom, Jimbo Fisher fired, gone, done. They're paying him $75 million to not coach at their school. That is crazy.
That's how you know you made it.
Yeah.
That's how you know. That's how you know you weren't doing a good job.
Yeah, true.
I mean, shoot, if I don't do a good job and y'all pay me $75 million over however many years, I will do a bad job every day.
That's fine. Fire me, please.
Exactly.
By all means.
And the crazier part about it is that if he gets another job, he's still getting that A&M money on top of whatever salary he gets. So
I will give his, because there's a lot of coaches that will get their payout, but if they take another big job, they won't. That stops their payout. So I do give his agent credit. He wrote the contract the right way. So Jimbo could show up at some other big school next year and he's still getting A&M money. So, but that being said, again, to me, I thought it was surprising. I think you have to let that class he brought in last year get to their junior year and see what you do. It was a historic class, #1 class in the country. Anytime you beat out Georgia or Alabama in recruiting, it's a special class. So for me to not let them kind of, actually see what they have and really develop that class and see where they are after next year was shocking to me. Cottrell, I know you kind of feel the same way because, we thought the same way about it at the beginning. Alex, I'm curious to see what you think, but we're going to start coaching Carousel with Jimbo Fisher because it's the biggest job out there, in my opinion. I don't think it's close. A lot of money, all the resources in the world you want, have a lot of talent on campus anyway. Where do you think we go? Where do you think we go from here, and who do you think ultimately gets the job?
Well, for me, I was kind of looking through some options, really going deep diving into what could be more successful for the program. They have an amazing, a couple recruiting classes these last couple of years. It will be interesting to see what the transfer numbers look like, at the end of the season from those top recruits. But, obviously who they get to replace him is going to really determine that factor. And I got a couple names that really jump off the table for me. And Petey said Deion Sanders. If this was next year, I would say he was correct. But with his son coming back one more year, they just came to Colorado. Honestly, he's not going to leave Colorado with a 4-7, 4-8 record. He's not going to want to leave there with that bad taste in his mouth. So 2 characters that I have for this job would be Mike Elko. Not a very sexy name, but he's been at the A&M program before. He's been the defensive coordinator there. He's familiar with kind of how the boosters are, how the programs ran. He's familiar with the expectations that are going to be asked of him. So he'll go in there with clear eyes, full heart. Friday Night Lights shout out. And then my second option, and the option I think would actually benefit them the most, is Kalen DeBoer from Washington. He's done. Cottrell's laughing over there. Maybe he's got the same list as me. I'm not sure. Maybe he
Alex
doesn't.
just all competition that could possibly hurt Oregon. He's like, get him out.
Well, no, I have a good solid logic for this. Okay. With Kalen DeBoer, he's already shown that he can have some success at Washington and that he had a lot of success in the transfer portal, landing Michael Penix Jr. However, Washington is going to take a huge step back next year, losing a lot of offensive weapons. So he needs to capitalize on his success now and try to get a big job now with that money, because after this season, he's not going to have the numbers or, the statistics to really land a large job like this for a few years until he can build up that Washington team. So I think he's going to capitalize on the Washington success, and he's going to segue that to a Texas A&M offer. That's who I think ultimately takes over that job, is Kalen DeBoer.
I mean, I don't hate it. I just think it's funny because any chance Alex gets to get those rivals out of there, he's going to take it.
Hey, but tell me I'm wrong though. If you're going to maximize Michael Penix at this successful season, and you know Washington's going to be a 5 or 6 win team next year, why not get that money?
No, for sure. I mean, I think it's great logic. It's just funny, coming from you, because that's going to be the people you face in the Pac-12 championship. So it's just funny. That's all. But I actually
on another job.
I think that makes a ton of sense though. For me, I said on Wednesday, Mike Elko is one of the 2. I also think make a lot of sense for that job for all the reasons Alex said. Him having that familiarity with that A&M area, how those boosters work, things like that. I think that's going to be big for them. And then the other one that I gave on Wednesday night was Cliff Kingsbury. I think Cliff Kingsbury is a guy who, obviously he was at A&M before. I think that's a splash name where you can get those offensive recruits and those quarterbacks to want to come play with Cliff Kingsbury. Obviously, he coached Patrick Mahomes, and while he was at Texas Tech, he coached Kyler in the league. So I think he could be able to recruit and get some guys that ultimately go to A&M. And I think that's a big enough name for them to, want to go after as well.
Yeah, I think the A&M one is going to be the interesting one. I don't think any of the Big Ten guys are going there. Not head coaches anyway. I think Deion is the glitzy name. I know A&M likes to make splashes. They like to throw their money around, they like to show that they're in the same league as Alabama and all that good stuff. I don't think Deion's viable, pretty much for the same reason Alex said. Shedeur is obviously not going to transfer at this point, and Deion's not doing himself any favors right now. So I would have, I I think we know what Dion can and can't do. I don't know if I'd be ready to hand over the keys to that program to Dion right now. We've heard Dan Campbell's name from the NFL. Like, he's not going, I hate to say it, but he's not going backwards, especially with that team that he has now. I think Mike Elko, here's the thing. I like Mike Elko. I think he's a very good coach. I think he would be a great fit there. My only reason I think he might not go there or they might not hire him is because I don't know if it's a big enough splash for them. But that being said, I think that's the safe move for them. I think it's a guy that will go in and bring stability to that program. He's going to get the most out of his kids. You've seen that the last couple of years at Duke. If you can coach Duke up to 7 or 8 wins a year, I'd really like to see what he can do with 4 and 5-star kids across his lineup. So Mike Elko is a really good name. I threw out another name on Wednesday that I think is viable, and it's picked up steam certain places, kind of dropped off places others. Is Brian Hartline. And I'm not saying that because it's an Ohio State thing. I think he's going to be one of the top assistants that people are, that are going to try to poach this year. Great at recruiting, great at developing talent, great at keeping talent in-house on the field. And he knows the game. So, he played at the NFL. He's played at every level. He's a younger guy that I think you could bring in, brings a lot of energy to your program, and can really develop and turn around 10 years from now and be like, this guy developed like a monster program. So those are the two names for me for A&M. I think it's going to be very interesting to see who ends up being there. I really do. And how much they get paid, because I feel like A&M is going to be very not that they're going to close the checkbooks, but I think A&M is going to be very cautious about who they pay going forward after just taking a $75 million bath on Jimbo Fisher. So that is the biggest one by far. I guess we'll go to Michigan State next, which is a dumpster fire right now. Still is. Not a lot of talent, left within the program. I'm sure you're going to see more kids transfer out after this year. I think it's crazy they haven't hired a coach yet. I think with as big a head start as they had on the field in regards to kind of going out and trying to get your man. Listen, and we joke about it, but Michigan State's, it's not top tier, but it's that next level down. It's a major Big Ten, program. It is, no matter how you slice it. It's not Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. It's not them, but that next tier down, that's where it is. It's a good job. I mean, Nick Saban's coach there. D'Antonio's coach there. There's people that have come through that program that have gone on to do huge things. They just can't get out of their way on that campus. And it's not all the football program either. I mean, but like you just look at the scandals they've had across all sports there, Larry Nassar, everything. They just can't buy a break. It's been like a 3 or 4 year cycle of just one scandal after another there. That being said, like I said, it's a good job. I think the crazy thing about Michigan State for me is personally, you really haven't heard anything yet either. Like obviously A&M's jumped to the top of the list now because it's just the best job available. But there's still like no like serious like names where everybody's like that's going to be the guy.
So Bill, hate to interrupt you. Last night I was doing some reading, and Michigan State has narrowed their list down to the 4 candidates going for second interviews. And that list is Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, Jed Fish from Arizona, Mike Elko from Duke, and Jason Candle from Toledo are the finalists for the Michigan State job right now.
And that, I think, is going to be your guy. I think Jason Candle is the one that makes a ton of sense for them. Obviously, with Toledo being right there on the border between Ohio and Michigan, I think it has that recruiting pipeline already. And you've seen the success that he's had in the MAC. Now, obviously, with the MAC being a group of 5 conference, it is a lower level. But I think for Michigan State, they should want somebody who can recruit well and who can coach well. I think that's how you rebuild your program, especially if you're not going to get, a splash name. Now, if you're Mike Elko, obviously Mike Elko is the biggest, I'd say the biggest name there just because of the success that he's had this year. But if you're Mike Elko, why would you go to a Michigan State team that you really have to rebuild from the ground up? I get you be making more money, but I think Mike Elko could stay at Duke and, be perfectly fine there, or even, potentially get one of these bigger jobs. So I don't think that makes sense for him. Oregon State coach, I don't think that would make too much sense either, because again, you have a successful program now, and I know DJU won't be back next year, but why take that step back, even if it is a little bit more money, because you're literally going to be building it from the ground up.
Oregon State doesn't have a conference next year. That could be a huge decision maker.
But that's right now, though. I mean,
right, but you know that these guys are looking to the future. You know that. I mean,
no, for sure.
Like, oh, also, if he beats Washington this weekend, I think it's a clear-cut favorite. He gets that job.
But I wouldn't want the Michigan State. If I'm him, I wouldn't want the Michigan State job. I'd be like, hey, I'm 10-2. I had a great year. I'm better than Michigan State. Most years you don't say that, but just because of where Michigan State is at right now and how much work you have to put in to turn that program around, I just think it's a little bit different. I think they should go for the smaller name, the guy who wants to make a name for himself, because they take pride in rebuilding that program. Not saying some of these veteran coaches won't, but if I'm them, I'm thinking I can do better than where Michigan State is at right now. So I think Jason Candle is the right hire, especially with the familiarity in the area in terms of recruiting.
See, I'll go this. If you're Mike Elko's agent, you obviously tell him to go take that interview, because if he is on the short list of, A&M's people, then it creates urgency for them. Like, if that's really our guy, like, we can't let him go get contract offers from Michigan State and everything else. All his agent's doing at that point is making him more money. And if he doesn't want to go to Michigan State, he just goes back to Duke. He's got a cush job down there, and people look at him like he's a hero right now down there. So he's in the best, he has no chance of kind of losing this offseason. Worst case scenario, he goes back to Duke. Jeb Fish, I think, is the same, position as, Oregon State. What is their future? And that's the tough thing to answer right now. They really don't have a conference next year. So, all the TV money is going to dry up, recruiting, like all the resources, all that stuff, like that stuff all gets harder now, with not having, the big bad, Pac-12 behind you. Everybody, got 4 teams going to the Big Ten. You got this, you got that. I don't know how many people want to hang around in the Pac-12 right now. I do agree with you with Campbell, though. I mean, I think it's the logical choice to get a guy that will, obviously stay loyal and want to take the Michigan State job and know it's a rebuild process and take the 3 to 5 years to do it the right way. We've seen MAC coaches make the jump before, especially when they're familiar with the territory, which obviously is, like Cottrell said, Toledo is right below the border of Michigan. He'll be very familiar with with all the coaches, high school coaches, and all that stuff in that area. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's who ends up getting it. I do think if Mike Elko says yes, I think he gets the job. I don't think he's going to say yes, though. Not with A&M still out on the table. That's just my opinion. If he's really a serious candidate for that position, but it's again, it's a good job. I think it's a good job. It's not A&M, but it's a good job. And it's a step up for all the guys that we talked about. I mean, I don't care how you want to cut it. It's a better program than all 4 of those programs we mentioned for the candidates coming from. So we'll go to a little bit smaller school stuff now, but not necessarily. I'm
going to say one thing, Bill, before we move on. Whoever Michigan State does to take on to run that program, I don't want to see them coach on the hot seat 2 years in. Like, they're in for a full rebuild. Like, they better commit to this guy at least 4 or 5 years, because that's what it's going to take to get this program back. I don't want to
see
stuff where
especially with these 4 teams joining the Big Ten. Yeah. Like, it's going to be rough sledding for Michigan State for a few years for sure.
So NFL coaches losing their job after a year, I hate that too, but it makes sense because those are professionals. But this is the college level. We got to recruit players, build players up. It takes 1 to 2 years to get people to their biggest potential. So I really want to see them kind of buckle down and really give whoever they choose, a few years to actually right that ship. But Bill, I know you said you want to move on to another school. So which one are you looking at next?
No, I agree though. I mean, anybody that signs that deal is stupid to not take anything less than a 5-year deal. And I agree 1,000,000% with you. Michigan State has to give whoever they hire 3 years. That's how long it's going to take. This isn't, you don't, I hate to say it, but like you don't have the, the recruiting power of, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama. You're not going to take one class and turn that team around. It's going to be a 2 or 3 year rebuild. So hopefully they are patient and they hire the right guy that they can really, sit back and allow to do his job and rebuild that program. We'll go out west for a little bit before we go back down south. We'll go out west to Boise State, and we'll talk about who might end up there, and and who's going to be the leader of the Smurf turf.
Detrell, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can. I think the name that makes a lot of sense to me would be one, Kellen Moore. I think Kellen Moore is a guy who is going to be out of a job because Brandon Staley is going to get fired, and then someone else is going to bring in their own OC, really just kind of go from there. I think Kellen Moore is a guy who obviously, with him playing at Boise State, familiar with the area, I think he'd be able to get people to come in and ultimately want to play for him. So I think that's a name that makes a lot of sense. And then I think another name that makes a lot of sense is going back to the old well. Go back and get Chris Peterson. Bring him back. He's had a lot of success at Boise State. He's coached at the higher levels. He went on and coached at Washington. I think, kind of go back to what get that Boise culture back to where it was at. Now, I think with Boise State, they're kind of in one of those weird positions because before they were that group of 5 school that was always competitive and always this, always that. But now, especially with the conference realignment, moving on to the 12-team playoff, and then even with, some other schools like JMU just coming out of nowhere being that dominant, non-Power 5 team. I think that Boise State job has a lot of work to do. So, I would try to bring in a familiar face and try to get that program back on track. So I like Kellen Moore there, or Chris Peterson.
Well, I definitely agree with you on the Kellen Moore. His name is, going to be thrown into the Boise State head coaching job for the rest of the time, as long as he's coaching. Having been alumni there, I think he's one of 3 people in the NFL that I think should have had a head coaching opportunity by now. Him, Eric Bieniemy, and Byron Leftwich are the 3 offensive coordinators I think at some point should have had an opportunity to head coach teams. And honestly, if Kellen Moore needs to take a step back in order to get to that position that he needs, I think Boise State would be the perfect spot for him, especially with an offensive mind like that. But the other name that I want to throw out there that you didn't mention was Gary Patterson. Coach at TCU. He's taken a year off, but he has made it known to the public that he is ready to return. He had a lot of success at TCU. He's used to smaller programs, which obviously TCU isn't a small program, but comparatively with who they're recruiting against, they are a small program. And that's kind of what Boise State's like. He's going to have a similar kind of situation, similar mindset going in there, competing against the bigger schools for recruiting. But that national championship losing team in TCU, a lot of those players were his recruiting. So he's got a great eye. So if anybody can get Boise State kind of back to their successful heritage that they're used to, I think Gary Patterson would be a nice name to throw in, to throw into the ring for a head coaching job there.
So Kellen Moore is an interesting name. I wasn't even thinking about Kellen Moore.
Really?
Because he's in the NFL. I mean, I think his ultimate goal is to get a head coaching job there. And I think if you leave, he's in a weird situation. I mean, it's, we've talked at length about the Chargers debacle, on Wednesdays, but he's kind of in limbo there. I mean, that's, I do agree with Cottrell. I think if Staley gets fired, I don't know if anybody retains Kellen Moore, which would kind of leave him out in the middle of nowhere. I just don't know if he goes back to college. I think it'd be a great name to hire. He understands what it takes to be a player there and be successful. And kind of like Cottrell said, I feel like, they went from the gritty, like underdog team and they had all that success for those 4 or 5 years. And then I feel like they almost kind of got like too Hollywood and they've kind of like lost like what made them good and what made them, fun to watch and why everybody pulled for them. And now they've kind of taken a step back. So I do agree. I think somebody needs to go back there. That's going to kind of rebuild the culture a little bit and kind of make them a tough, like scrappy underdog type team. They do recruit well. I mean, at Boise State, for one of the smaller schools up there, they have great facilities. It's not hard to get people to go to, to get them on campus. And then again on that same thought process, I mean, I think Chris Peterson is another great name for all the same reasons. He's the one that started this whole ship moving the way it moved and upset of Oklahoma and everything else. Still probably the craziest finish to a football game I've ever seen. So I mean, I think it's a good job. I don't know if he would go from TCU to Boise State. I feel like it's kind of a step backwards. But then again, I don't know if he just wants to get back into coaching. Who knows? Maybe it's something Gary would entertain. But again, I think it's another
interest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's another job. It's a good job. Everybody knows who Boise State is, and I'll say that. Like, I don't think that was the case, 15 years ago. But I mean, you ask anybody who watches college football, they know who Boise State is. Like, Boise State is it's not a USC type brand, but it's a brand. Like, people know who they are. So I mean, I think that program. I think I'll be watching because I'm the most curious to see who ends up there. I think we know we're going to get a big name at A&M one way or the other. And Michigan State probably the same thing. I think there's opportunity for it to be somebody maybe we never thought of end up at Boise State. But we'll go back down south in the SEC for another one that I think was surprising to a lot of people. The Mississippi State job is open after not even really 1 year.
Crazy.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. Like, you got to invest in your people, man. Who wants to take a job that after 1 year of failure, you're going to get fired? Like, you got to build a program.
To be fair, though, they didn't really hire this guy. He kind of just fell into the spot, with the circumstances. So I can understand this one a little bit more just because he might not have been their guy. They were just in a spot where, the coaching trees had basically already been shaken loose. So they probably didn't even have a chance to go get their guy. They wanted to give him a shot just because he was in-house and, maybe they already had the guy, and he turned out that he wasn't the guy, at least throughout the 1 year. So I can understand that one a little bit.
I get it. I mean, if anybody's not familiar, he got the job because Mike Leach, passed away unexpectedly after last year was over. To Cottrell's point, you were kind of mid-cycle and you didn't really have a lot of time to kind of go out and circle the wagons and probably get a big name that you wanted to. And on top of that, this guy did, he was one of the guys that went out and recruited. So he kept a lot of the guys, that were committed to Mike Leach, kept them from, switching their commitments and going somewhere else. My point is this, though. I mean, I think it was a great opportunity that they handed him. I think they always knew this is probably where we ended up, but let him finish the year then. I mean, you could say like, oh, they gave him a chance. All right, well, he also did you a huge favor too. So,
true.
I would let the guy. I mean, the team's not going anywhere. Let him finish the year. Let him finish the year with the kids, and then kind of in a more quiet way, you part ways and to say that, thank you for everything you did. Like, super tough circumstances. Appreciate the effort, blah, blah, blah. And then be like, we're just going to try to get, we're going to go out and try to find our permanent guy now. There's nothing wrong with that. I think this actually looks bad for Mississippi State, if I'm being honest. Again, I don't think the performance aspect can be argued. I think with the talent they do on that team, I think they're they're definitely underperforming. They're underachieving a little bit. But I think to Alex's point, I think it matters how you treat people too. And, if I'm looking at that from a point of view of coaching there, I could get my foot in the SEC, but, this kid was put into an impossible situation. They just threw him under the bus with 2 weeks to go in the season. So that was surprising to me, and I didn't like that part of it either. But that being said, kind of like I said, SEC job. It's a big job. Mississippi State is obviously not Alabama, Georgia, one of them, but it's a team that's had a program that's had a lot of success in the past. And, kind of every 2 or 3 years, you get a Mississippi State team that's like 9-3, and they're really good. They really rely on building their kids up for 3 years, and they have that really good team. And then two years go by, and they have another really good team. But what do you guys hearing here? What do you think? Who ends up in this seed and going forward, and who leads the Bulldogs?
So for me, I got two names here. One of them is going to be a familiar face. I love the reunions, so sign me up. First name I got, Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen's a guy who had Mississippi State right there on the edge of glory. He was there when they had Dak Prescott and they were the number one team in the first ever college football playoff rankings. And, then everything went downhill. But I think if you want to bring in a guy that has some familiarity with that program and really knows what it takes to kind of build them back up, I think that could be an interesting name. And then the other one is going to be a guy that just got fired. That's Jimbo Fisher. If Jimbo Fisher
Took it out
wants
of my
to,
mouth.
if Jimbo Fisher wants to, coach and he wants to still be in a competitive conference, I think Mississippi State could be the perfect job because clearly Jimbo can recruit. Now, obviously, it's going to be a little bit different when you don't have the A&M boosters behind you giving out, millions of dollars to all these recruits and things like that. But Jimbo Fisher is a great recruiter as well. So I think he could still be very competitive. It's still a good job, and that's the perfect job, I think, to go out to and really just, you're essentially falling on your feet. So I think Jimbo Fisher could be a very interesting name as well.
Damn, Gautreau. I was going to throw out Jimbo Fisher like, what do you think of me now type pick, but you already beat me to it. So whatever. I have one other name, though, that you hadn't mentioned that I think is a really interesting name. Depends on what Mississippi State's mindset is going to be like going into the future. But the name I have is Jamie Chadwell, the head coach of Liberty right now. And Liberty is on a tear, absolutely dominating. And he coached at Coastal Carolina and honestly had a lot of success there. I think only losing 3 games, I think, in his tenure there. And, he chose to step up his coaching game over to Liberty. But I think it's time maybe he throws his hat in the ring and starts coaching up the big boys. And I think he could have a lot of success in Mississippi State with his, he's a younger guy. He's easily relatable to the players. I don't think he's as expensive as some of these other guys. And I also think that, like I said, Jimbo Fisher would be a really, really nice little touch to that team as well with his recruiting ability. Mississippi State is the most interesting job as that's really one of the jobs I'm really not sure who's going to get it just because you're not really sure the direction they're going to go in after losing Mike Leach. So I'm not really sure.
Jimbo's an interesting name there because it would be weird if he has that kind of like vendetta kind of vengeance streak in him. They're gonna be like, all right, I'll just go to Mississippi State. You're going to pay me to stay in conference and coach against you now.
Heck yeah.
That would be interesting to say the least, but I don't know.
It's a villain origin
know.
story.
It is. I don't know if we get that. That'd be good for college football. It'd be interesting.
If I'm Jimbo, I go sit on the beach for a couple years, enjoy that money, sip some Mai Tais, and then maybe get back.
I never coach again. I'm not gonna lie. Jimbo's already old. He's got a natty. He's getting $76 million. Do nothing. I'm done.
I'm done unless somebody calls and offers me like
the same deal I had at A&M. It's got
to be a top 15 program. If not, I'm not getting off my rocking chair on the beach. I'm just not doing it. I'm 100% with Cottrell on that one. I'm done. I'm enjoying the rest of my life. I'm enjoying all the money. Probably take $100 bill and light it every morning and just say "F you, Texas A&M" and
wipe my ass with it, maybe.
Yeah. And go about my business. Nick Saban retires and Alabama calls. All right, I'll take that phone call. Or it would have to be a job like that. And if it's not, no thanks. Don't tell my agent not to even bother calling me. So that is it for Coaching Carousel. In the next week or two, we're probably going to revisit this because there will definitely be more people losing their jobs. Once we get through next week.
Or not even just losing, but potentially taking over programs and then, creating more openings. So Kalen DeBoer, if he leaves and Washington becomes open, that's a sexy job going to the Big Ten.
Here's an interesting thing to look forward to, though, is pretty quietly, Byron Leftwich actually joined the Colorado coaching staff as assistant offensive coordinator or assistant quarterbacks coach. But he'll be on full-time next year on that Colorado coaching staff. So it'll be interesting to see the kind of the journey he takes and if he's going to be switching to the college level and using this as a stepping stone to his own college head coaching position, or if he's just kind of looking for something to do for the next couple of years. So that's a name we should look out for next year and the year after.
I will tell you this: somebody better give that man a chance to do something.
That's what I'm saying.
He's proven he can be an OC. He won a goddamn Super Bowl. Obviously he's not going to take Deion's job, but.
No, but that's a good place to get some recognition. And I say 2025, he could be a head coach somewhere.
I could see Byron Leftwich going to Boise. I would buy that.
That'd be a good pick. I mean, he's a smaller school guy. He went to Marshall, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a good mindset for him.
Marshall legend.
Yeah, with Chad Pennington.
Yeah, it's interesting. Did anybody see Deion's press conference last night? By the way.
I went to bed, dude. Halftime,
it was halftime.
Over, man.
All right. talk about it later. I was not. Listen, I know Dion's kind of old school and like hard nosed, and I appreciate that. Like I like that. He did like a Brian Kelly last night, and I don't like that at all. So, talk about that at a later date. Where we going? What we got next? We got what, ranking reactions, recaps. Where we going?
Recaps. And then we'll go into the rankings right after.
Rankings and Eliminator, so Alex can start screaming at people.
You deserve it. You deserve it. You promised me 3 weeks now. I digress.
All right. Well, as a whole, actually, Alex, didn't you pick Ole Miss to win this game?
I don't want to talk about it, but yes, I did.
All right. Well,
I like being on the right side of
facts. So
history.
On behalf of Your Excellences Cottrell here, I will say, as the two smart guys on the show, we told you so. We told you this was coming, and it did. This was a typical for a quarter. It looked okay, and then Lane started getting out coached real bad, real quick. And then it was just the old, mudslided at Woodstock type game for the rest of it. It did not ass beating. I don't know how else to say it. Georgia's back. Carson Beck just kind of looks like he knows what he's doing all of a sudden. They ran the ball, got Brock Bowers back. Ladd McConkey, best name in college football, another huge day. Georgia rolls. Georgia's looking good. Ole Miss,
Ole Miss looking like Ole Miss.
Ole Miss going to do Ole Miss things. I don't say, man. This is a Lane Kiffin special. They beat the teams they're supposed to, and the teams that people think they might have a shot at, they get blown out by. So here we are.
Lane Kiffin's also an interesting name. I know we're past coaching carousel, but Lane Kiffin's always the name to think about because you throw him the right dollar sign on the check, he's out of there.
No loyalty whatsoever, none. Only guy I've ever seen get fired on a tarmac before, which is interesting, which is fun. But Lane Kiffin is a name to watch, especially after this. They'll go to a bowl game probably, and they'll probably play like the 4th-ranked ACC team and beat them, and everybody will be happy. They'll be 11-2, but whatever. They are what they are. Reactions, thoughts, prayers for Ole Miss. What are we going to do here?
One of these days, I'm going to pick an upset like this, and it's going to hit. All right, it's going to hit. Last week was not my day. Jackson Dart. Today is not your day. Jackson Dart, honestly, he came out looking great. Honestly, I think he was the bright spot of Ole Miss. And I honestly still had a thought in my head that Ole Miss was going to pull it out when it was 38-17, and then he went down with an injury. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I didn't know the game was over at that point. But honestly, Jackson Dart was looking good in that first quarter. He was really starting to get out of the pocket and move with his legs. I'm honestly hoping he does come back for one more year at that Ole Miss program, with one more year of eligibility left. I think he'd be honestly a superstar next year. Quinshon Judkins couldn't quite get it going on the ground under 4 yards to carry, was able to get those 2 touchdowns. But Georgia is going to Georgia. They almost doubled their total yards in that game. Last week we were talking, like, what is this Georgia offense going to look like, with Ladd McConkey and Bowers coming back? And we saw what that offense is going to look like. They ended up putting up their highest point total of the season against Ole Miss at 52 points. And really, they didn't really even use Bowers that often. He was more of like a blocker, and he was more of like a diversion for more than anything. I mean, he was just kind of out there. Exactly. Thank you. I couldn't really think of the word. You got to remember, it's 7:41 out here for me, all right? My vocabulary is not large. And the one thing that really surprised me, though, is the reason I thought this game was going to be closer is that Ole Miss off the defensive line has been really dominant all year. But Georgia, on the other hand, did not give up 1 sack or 1 tackle for loss the entire game against Ole Miss's front. And that was truly the telling stat. Carson Beck was not rushed. He was not pressured. He would have plenty of time in the pocket. And Beck showed that when you allow him to have that time, he's going to pick you apart. And he did just that with 306 yards. He had 1 interception, 1 mistake there. Not a huge deal on my radar, but Georgia looking like Georgia. And I'm starting to get a little worried for the rest of the college football right now.
It's a valid point.
Agree 100%. Georgia, obviously, we knew what they were going to be defensively. I'd say at least. Now we knew that they lost so much talent these last 2 years to the NFL, but you knew they were going to have that same mindset of the Georgia teams in the past. I think the biggest question mark was really going to be Carson Beck and what kind of quarterback he was going to be. Is he going to try and be the guy to try to go win you football games? Or is he going to be the guy to, really just take what you give him and let his playmakers go to work? And, I think he's done a great job of being somewhere in the middle there. Carson Beck, he can get it outside and he could throw the deep ball if, Ladd or if Brock's going across the middle. He throws great passes. He's a great decision maker as well. And that Georgia team is rolling. This is a scary team to see right now because not only is it scary because of a game like this, but now they're at full strength and they got a few weeks to build that cohesion and have that chemistry with everybody. So you get to see that 2 weeks before an SEC championship game against Alabama. Depending on how that game looks, I mean, I don't know how you can't be looking at Georgia as the favorite to win another national championship. So this game, to me, it went exactly how I thought it was going to go, but it's still impressive nonetheless.
Agree. I mean, I think it's, they're just better on all three facets of the game. And all kidding aside, Ole Miss is not a bad football team. They're not. I think it's just more about Georgia kind of starting to flex their muscle and kind of gear up for the stretch run here. They're going to have, they got 2 games and then they're going to have Alabama, which is, I think interesting. I think everybody kind of jumped on, I don't say jumped back on the Alabama, but everybody's like, all right, like Alabama is a lot better than we thought they were going to be. And Georgia kind of looks gettable. And then Georgia was like, oh, really? Okay. And the last 3 weeks, they've just murdered people. So I will say this, man. Kirby Smart definitely learned from the old Nick Saban playbook, and he takes anything that's said publicly about his team, and he absolutely uses it. It was like, you're going to rank us number 2? Okay, well, you can rank us number 2. And it's he gets these kids motivated, man. And then on top of that, they're just talented. They're well coached. They execute well. They are a really good football team. I never really thought we would see a three-peat. Even in all the great Alabama days, man, I never thought you'd see somebody win 3 in a row. You might see it this year. You really might. They are peaking at the right time. They look great. So Georgia continues to roll. We will roll on to the next game. Once again,
rolling
over like a dead dog that they are. Not to say I didn't tell you, and I told you so, but here we are. Missouri. I'll just make this simple and I'll hand it over to you guys. I'm not going to keep beating the dead horse of Joe Milton and that Tennessee offense this year, which I just keep telling people they are what they are, and people don't listen to me. I watched the kid play for 2 years. I know what he is. I know what he's capable of and what he's not capable of. But minus the Joe Milton stuff, Missouri's just a better football team. They've proven it week in and week out this year. Minus the Georgia game, which they hung in for a while. They're just a better football team. Brady Cook is the best quarterback in the country that casuals don't know who he is. The kid can ball. Cody Schrader's a monster on the ground. Monster. They can run the ball. And I'll tell you what, they're a lot better defensively than people give them credit for. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, the only game they probably saw was them play against Georgia, and they're like, whatever. No, they're a good football team. They're a very good football team. Tennessee, said it all year. I think Tennessee got a lot of hype and coming off last year, and they got a ranking in the beginning of the year that they didn't really deserve. They shouldn't be ranked now. Don't get me wrong. Last year's team was very good. They were a great football team. They lost a ton coming back this year. A ton. They lost half their line, their quarterback, their best wide receiver.
Their two best wide receivers.
Their 2 best wide receivers. You're right. Thank you, Cottrell. You're right. It just in the SEC, you just don't have that gap, that time to make it up like that. Like you have to be like Georgia or Alabama, just rolling 5 kids in to take the next guy's place. I like Josh Heupel as a coach. Again, I think he has that program going in the right direction, and you know, he will continue to build. I think this is an off year for them based off what they lost last year. Tennessee's just not good. So I'll hand this over to you guys. You guys can take it from here. Missouri's just a better football team, and they showed it Saturday.
I mean, ultimately, I have 2 words on this game, and that's complete domination. Besides Brady Cook's opening drive interception, they had a flawless game plan the rest of the way. Joe Milton, 1 interception. He did have a better day than I thought he would through the air, to be honest with you. I thought Jalen Wright would actually go off and have, a lot of success on the ground against Missouri's front 7. It turned out that I was completely wrong. We all knew Missouri would win this game. I did not think they would win by a score like this. And ultimately, this is the reason why Missouri, and we're going to talk about this here soon, why Missouri is a top 10 team as a two-loss program, is they're absolutely dominant. They played the best game against Georgia that Georgia's seen all year, losing by 9, but they were in the game with 6 minutes left to go with a chance to win. So I really like this Missouri team. I was talking last week how it was Brady Cook, Cody Schrader, and Luther Burden III were going to be the three-headed monster that was going to kind of take care of Tennessee. And honestly, all they needed was Cody Schrader. He had 321 total yards of offense just himself between receiving and rushing the ball. He was a one-man wrecking crew. Brady Cook just needed to give him the ball and stand back and let him take over. So I'm excited to see what Missouri can do the last couple games of the year and what they're ultimately able to do in a bowl game. So Missouri, good job handling business, handling who you should have handled. And I hope Tennessee's able to turn around for next year, because that's when that program's good. When that program is good, the conference is a lot better. So hopefully we can get that back on track next year.
Yeah, and I really don't have much else to add. You guys have hit on pretty much everything. Missouri is, I've been with you, Alex, on the Missouri hype train. Now, I will say I didn't think they deserved to be in necessarily like the top 10. Like I did give a little bit pushback there, but this Missouri team is good, and this was a complete domination. That was a great way to put it, Alex. This Tennessee team, though, 100% should not be ranked at this point. Their best win all season is Kentucky. So I know they had a lot of hype coming in, but this Tennessee team, they're just not who people thought they would be. And so let's go ahead, move on. It's okay that we were wrong. Let's get another deserving team in there. So that's just really my thoughts about it. But Missouri is going to be a fun team. Maybe they sneak into a New Year's Six bowl game.
That'd be nice to see. Honestly, I think that offense is worthy of a New Year's Six bowl game, but honestly, time will tell. Where are we going next, Bill?
I don't push the button.
Push that button.
Push the button.
Push the button. That's so funny you said that. We were literally talking about that movie in office yesterday. Me, Brandon, and Billy C. were laughing. We got on Chris Tucker.
Button.
Yeah, we got on Chris Tucker somehow, and then I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I will watch Rush Hour 1 and 2 over and over all the time.
Facts.
Like, how hysterical they were and how the first one was. And that's what we all kept saying. We're like, yeah, push the goddamn button. That's so funny you said that. But all right, here we go. Listen, again, this was not a surprise to anybody. Oregon, very good football team. Bo Nix came out and handled his business. Bucky did his normal complimentary thing. USC showed up, didn't tackle anybody again, and Oregon won. This is rinse and repeat. Caleb had a okay day. USC is. I'm going to save all my points on this because I know it's going to come up in about 7 minutes. So I'm surprised Oregon only won by 9. If I'm being honest. I thought they would win by more, but that being said, they handled their business at home. They did what they're supposed to do. They won the football game. Bo Nix definitely, solidified his lead at the top of the Heisman race, in my opinion. And Oregon is on to this week. So nothing about this game surprised me other than, like I said, I just thought Oregon would win by more, if I'm being honest.
Alex, I know you probably got like a million things to say about this game and how Oregon should be the favorite to win the Natty. So I'll just go super quick here. The only thing that surprised me was how hot Oregon came out the gate. Bo Nix had his first 2 completions were 2 touchdowns. So big explosive plays were happening, and then They dominated this game. The score isn't really indicative of how the game really went. USC, they did get some momentum late. But Oregon definitely dominated this game. I will say I'm surprised they didn't score more points. 35 against USC's kind of light, especially for that Oregon offense. But I mean, again, they dominated the game, so there's not really much else to say for me.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Oregon, like I said, Oregon was up, what was the score? 35-14 entering, or about a few seconds into the fourth quarter, the Ducks scored. The score is 35-14. From there, it looked like Oregon kind of took their gas out, or the foot off the gas, and kind of ran the ball, trying to run the clock out. And then Caleb Williams was able to, make a couple drives, get them down there to score a couple touchdowns to make this game look more respectable than it was. But you're right, the score is a lot closer than the game actually was. Bo Nix, 412 yards. I knew he was going to go off, but I honestly thought Bucky Irving was going to be the star of the game. And Bo Nix said, nope, not today. I need a Heisman to my resume. And he went out, and I think this game puts him at the front of the Heisman, of the Heisman odds, as we've seen update this week, that he is now the favorite with Michael Penix close behind. Bucky Irving looking great, 19 carries, 118 yards. And just like Cottrell said, the first two passes of the game, Bo Nix was started off 2 for 2, 2 touchdowns, and I think it was like 171 yards. I mean, I know USC's defense is bad, but that is ridiculous. Caleb Williams had spots where he looked good. The offensive line could not get any push against the Oregon front, and had less than 100 yards. Oregon held another opponent to under 100 yards, and I expected that to be a bright spot that USC was trying to kind of get going early in the game, and they just never did. I'm glad Oregon got past this game. This is one of those games where, Caleb Williams could have came out and dropped a 50 burger on us, or he could have come out and Oregon could have shut him down. So I'm glad the game went our way, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks this season to see if we can make that Pac-12 championship and ultimately the Natty.
Really? Alex?
I mean, it was coming.
See if we can make the Pac-12 championship.
I'm humble, all right? I'm not going to curse my team. I'm not going to talk a big game yet. All right,
humble,
not yet.
Humble and delusional. Love it.
Alex, you're killing me here.
What are you talking about?
Pick one side. You're telling me weeks ago about how Oregon should be number 4 in the country, number 5. And now you're telling me if we make the Pac-12 championship game, come on. I need you to be all in. That's all.
I'm trying to balance between.
No, I don't want balance. Okay, I want lopsided.
I know that's what you want, but for the fans, I'm trying to give an equal bipartisan, take on this. And if you want me to say how I really feel, Oregon's going to beat Arizona State today by 72, and then walk all over Oregon State by 45 next week. God. And then, see, is that what you want?
Yes, that's what I want. That's what I want.
That to you.
I want to know how you feel. Thank you.
But no, Ducks dominated this game. I'm glad that they was at home. I wish I could have been there, but it was a good game.
Thank God somebody pushed the button.
Bill.
So Washington, Utah. I will say this: Washington is firmly got 2 feet, not completely dug in, but they're both in the begging to get beat box right now. They could have. Depending on who you talk to, there's a lot of people think they should have lost this game. So they are. They're leaking water at the wrong time of the year. Another great day by Michael Penix Jr. to keep himself in the Heisman race. Dylan Johnson had a solid day. Dunze, another solid day through the air with Penix Jr. But Utah balled, man. The Utah did what Utah did. They went on the road and they played tough. They played pretty good defense, ran the ball and tried to stay in the game. But This is kind of what I went back to, after Washington and Oregon played. I just left that game feeling Oregon left a lot of points on the board, and Oregon was just a better football team. And that was at Washington. They're on a collision course to play in 2 weeks on a neutral field. I think Oregon's going to beat the brakes off them. I really do. I think Washington's a very good team. I just think they have – you could look at them now, and if you're not a Washington fan, so if there's any Husky fans watching this, I apologize now. But if you're an unbiased college football fan and you can watch Washington play, they have significant weaknesses that are very apparent when you watch them play football. And they're eventually going to play another team that is a complete football team, and they're going to exploit them, and they're going to beat them. it's probably going to be Oregon. But we'll see what happens between now and then because people have big games between now and then. But that being said, listen. Also, this time of year, it's not easy to pick up W's. It's not. You're the home stretch of the season. Everybody's team's banged up. Guys are playing hurt. Utah's never an easy win ever. But
was for Oregon.
Oh my God.
See what you did, Bill? You threw him the lob, and
that's fine. It's fine, but he's not. Here's the problem with Alex. Alex always takes the carrot that I dangle in front of him. He always takes the carrot. He never looks at the long game. We're gonna go over the long game here in about 5 minutes when we get to it. But listen, again, good teams have to find ways to win games where they don't play their best. I think Washington's concern, if you're asking me, is they haven't played a really good game in a month, and that's really dangerous and really scary this time of year. So survive in advance. It's all you can do. That's what they did. They won by a touchdown. They didn't cover. Not that really matters, but there was times in this game that I honest to God, thought Utah was going to take over and win. And that's just not something you want to see out of a team that is yelling from the rooftops that they get disrespected every week and they should be, in the top 4. So I think eye test matters a lot here. And again, if you're not a Husky fan, if you're being unbiased, Washington has not looked great since probably the beginning of October. And that's honesty.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think the one thing, though, is that I think we're kind of blowing this game out of proportion a little bit. Only reason I say that is because that pick six, if he holds the ball for 2 more yards, this game's out of hand and we don't get to where we're at. And I know ifs, ands, all that. It actually happened. So, we have to talk about it like that. But that pick six there, that puts the game out of reach. It sucks all the momentum out of that Utah team. And we're looking at a Washington team that has 42 points. And I get it. Defensively, they definitely still have their struggles, even getting those 2 interceptions. They have not been playing well defensively at all by any stretch of the word. So I agree in the sense that Washington is in trouble and they are looking to get beat. But I never really felt like, especially watching this game, after halftime, I never really felt like Washington was in danger. Obviously, Utah was up at halftime, but once Washington took the lead, I felt like they had all the momentum and they were gonna ride that thing out. And then the non-pick six happened, and then that ultimately gave Utah some more life.
And first off, Bill, I just want to correct you on one thing here. You said Husky fans. There's no such thing as a Husky fan. There's just people who like purple. That's it. But as far as the Utah-Washington game goes,
I like Huskies. Maybe not the team, but
I love the Dogs.
But Washington, their defense really stepped up in the second half, allowing 28 first half points, allowing 0 in the second half. So to me, you guys say, Washington didn't really look like they were in question in the second half. Utah had so many opportunities to take advantage and add on to that total, that point total, and they were just unable to do it. They could not get there. You said that they had a good running game. Jaquindon Jackson just could not get it going. Yes, he had 2 touchdowns, only 10 carries, 2.9 yards per carry. They need him as a workhorse. They needed him to really show out against Washington for them to really have a chance. And, here's my problem with this win. Statistically, they dominated Utah, in that second half, truly pushed them around. But one thing that I see when I look at Georgia or I look at, let me see, or even Alabama right now, or even Oregon, minus this last game against USC, is that they aren't able to put teams away. Like I said, they had so many opportunities to make this score. Like you said, that dropped interception where he fumbled it 2 yards before the goal line. Like Washington does not have a killer instinct. I have a mindset, I'm going to do enough to win, but they need to put somebody away because one of these games, they're not going to put somebody away and it's going to hurt them. So I would like to see more from them going forward. I know it's getting close to the end of the season, but Washington is not doing themselves any favors if they want to jump into that college football playoff, and not being able to put teams away is a surefire sign that they are not ready to make that jump.
I'm going to give you just a little bit of pushback there. Only reason, because we all agree, I think, with the same sentiment of Washington hasn't played their best brand of football. In that, one of these days they're going to go up against a team that says, hey, if you don't want to give us your best, we're going to beat you. Like, I think we all agree there. I think this is a week where they have a chance to right that ship, because if you beat Oregon State, even if it's not your best brand of football, if you beat Oregon State, all you have to do at that point is go play. You got Washington State the following week, but then after that, you're going to be on a collision course with Oregon again. And that's the game where they need to be at their best. So I get you want to see teams playing their best brand of football now, especially with it being the end of November. But I also think that survive in advance, it's not just a phrase. Like, that's a real life thing at this point. Like, even if Washington loses a game, let's say they lose today, and I know we're going to get in our preview later, but if they lose today and then they go off and they play Oregon and they win that game, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Oregon is going to be your Pac-12 champions. But if they do that, then we're talking about a Washington team that has a really good chance of still being in the college football playoff. So I'm not ready to just completely close the door on them. Maybe a loss is going to be the wake-up call that they need if it happens outside of that Pac-12 championship game. I don't know. But I just think the way Michael Penix and company, that receiving core, the way that they're playing, they're going to have a shot every week.
I agree with that. I mean, again, I'm not saying Washington by any means is a bad football team. I just don't think they've played a really good football game since the beginning of October. And I think that's just a dangerous, dangerous game to play this time of year.
Was it 6 straight games by 10 points or less?
Yeah, against some of those teams that are. I mean, they weren't playing. Yeah, Stanford. I
think Arizona was one of those.
Arizona State. They were losing midway through the fourth quarter. Like, it's
No, for sure.
This is not much to talk about here. Be 100% honest. Michigan. I'm serious. Michigan. Nah, yeah. I mean, you know what? I'll say this. I'll give you gentlemen credit for allowing me to talk about this game on this show and not try to pass it over, because one of the hosts might be a Nittany Weiner fan. So I appreciate the outlet to talk about it. This game is kind of what we thought it was going to be. It's going to kind of be old school, a lot of running, a lot of really, really good defense. It's a crazy thing when you think about it. I mean, in the top 10 in total defense for the entire country, you have 3 Big Ten East teams in it, in Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. It's kind of nuts. I will say this. I think there's a lot of slander going on with Drew Aller, which I don't like. If you really watch that game and look at the play calls that were called in that game, they gave him nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. They gave him no opportunity to succeed. Michigan would have press coverage and they wouldn't audible out of things, and they're running like 3-yard outs. You know where to throw the ball. If you know anything about Drew Aller, he has all the talent in the world. He will be a very good quarterback. I wish he didn't go to Penn State. I really do, because he is never going to hit his ceiling in that program with James Franklin and the way they run their offense. But minus all that, I would say lay off that kid. I think he's a great kid. I think he's talented beyond belief. I think he just picked the wrong school to go to, and that's not. I'm not saying Penn State's not a good football team. I'm not saying anything like that, because they are. They're a very good football team. They have 2 losses, both under 10 points, to the number 2 and 3 team in the country. They are a very, very good football team. He's just not going to a program that ever wants to throw the ball 30 times a game, and really let him show off what he is. So a lot of I've heard quite a few things saying that a lot of people think he might hit the portal. That would be very interesting to me if he does. I don't think he will, but if he does, there will be an absolute bidding war to get him. Because, yeah, like I said, if you follow recruiting or scouting or anything like that, he has everything. Like, put him in an offense where they can actually block for him, and has wide receivers that can get open, and has an offensive coordinator that has any freaking clue in the world what he's doing. Drew Aller will look like a star very quickly. But in regards to this game, Michigan just decided they were going to run the ball down their throat. Like I said, I said all year, Penn State was kind of a little lesser version of what Michigan is right now. Michigan relied on their defense. Offensive line just pounded the ball. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards both had great games. Nothing Penn State could do to stop it once they decided just to run the ball. Ran it down their throats, scored more, put the game away really with like 7 minutes to go. James Franklin made another, 2 bonehead mistake play calls, and that was pretty much the end of the game. We go to Maryland this week. I forget who Penn State has. I can't remember, but doesn't matter. They're going to be 10-2.
I think it's Rutgers.
Yeah, that'll be take the under, bet your house on the under in that game, whatever it is. Penn State will be the best 2-loss team in the country. And I don't think there's going to be there's any doubt or any real conversation to that, in my opinion, anyway.
Missouri's the best 2-loss team in the country, but we'll talk about that next section.
Maybe. Neutral field, that'd be a very interesting football game.
True.
But
hey, sign me up, New Year's 6.
Yeah, facts. I'll watch that. But listen, we showed up and did what we had to do. Considering all the circumstances and all that stuff, they handled their business. Dominant. Aller 70 yards passing, right over 200 yards total given up. The defense is playing as good as they've ever played. They're peaking at the right time. We move on to this week, and then we get ready for next week. So just got to take care of business this week. And then get ready for the big one. Control, I'm assuming you watch this game. I don't know if Alex, you watch this game, but whatever you guys want to add on, by all means.
Yeah, Control's going to have a bigger opinion than I will, so I'll just get this over real fast. We were talking in the group chat during this game, and I think my exact quote was, watching this game is almost exactly like watching the Ohio State-Penn State game, in which Control responded to, next, Penn State's going to score a last-minute touchdown and try an onside kick. And guess what happened? 3 minutes later, Penn State scores, failed on an onside kick. It was literally the exact same game, which honestly makes me even more excited for next week's Michigan-Ohio State battle, because honestly, I see 2 of the exact same teams, and they're going to be battling for absolute domination next week, and that's going to be a fun game to talk about. That's next week. Michigan, the one thing you need to know about this game, like Bill said, Michigan did not pass the ball once in the second half. This game was not out of question for Penn State to make a comeback, and Michigan said, you ain't going to score. We're just going to run the ball, and you're not going to be able to do anything. And that's exactly what happened. Blake Corum's carried the ball 26 times, which is the most he's carried the ball this season, and he rewarded his team with 145 yards and 2 tutties. So Michigan did what they had to. They didn't show. I feel like they didn't show too much of their, their playbook. Having run the ball as much as they did, only eight passing attempts. And I can't remember his name. The coach that was coaching Michigan on the sidelines, dude. His post game interview, one of the best post game interviews I've ever seen. Man, it's awesome to see a grown man cry and get that TV station about $50,000 in fines with all those curse words. I'm excited for Michigan. I'm on their side going forward. Up until next week, I have full confidence in that team to get things done, and I'm getting them undefeated till next week, and we'll see what happens.
Alex, I like what you said. I do.
Here it comes.
Oh boy.
the press conference, the interview afterwards.
Bro,
you're acting like Jim Harbaugh died or something. The reason why he wasn't coaching is because he got caught cheating. I don't care that we did this for you. Yeah, we did it because you can't be on the sideline with us because you're at this program that's cheating. That's why. That's the first thing. Second thing, Michigan, I give them all the credit in the world, because with how their game plan was coming into the game, I fully think that they had the right game plan for that first half, and that's why you saw them be so dominant there. Obviously, Penn State, Drew Aller, he rushed for a touchdown right before the end of the first half, but outside of that, Michigan had really dominated that first half. They looked great defensively. They were running the ball very effectively. I think in the second half, though, had Jim Harbaugh been on the sidelines, I do think you would have seen some more passes attempted. I think Michigan kind of played it rather safe, and that was the smart thing to do there. That was working. It was effective, and it ultimately led them to a win. So I give that program all the props in the world for being in that position. Tough game. Now, I know they had played some games earlier on in the year without Jim Harbaugh, so it wasn't like that was necessarily new to them. But this being the most important game of your season, because essentially, if you lose this game, then you have to rely on other teams to to win or lose to potentially make it to even the Big Ten championship game. Like beating Ohio State wouldn't have even necessarily been enough because it would have been a 3-way tie in the Big Ten. So give credit to Michigan there for battling that adversity. But as far as the post game presser goes, nah. The crying part, I have no issues with him crying. Like I have no issues there. Like I love to see people express their emotion like that. But the reason behind it, you're not a victim. Don't try and get sympathy and play. Everyone's against us. This is for you. Not hearing that.
That's crazy you take that stance because that's pretty much exactly what your coach did in the Notre Dame game.
It's not though. It has
everybody kept questioning how to. You're gonna cry over little Lou Holtz because he went on.
First off, Ryan Day didn't cry.
He did. He didn't cry. He absolutely had moisture getting ready to come out of his eyes. He was glassy eyed. Maybe he just wasn't tearing down his cheeks yet. Man was crying. And he got all worked up about Lou Holtz. The dude's 90. Like they propped Lou Holtz up in a chair for college game day. Like, what do you think Lou Holtz is going to say? Like, oh, Ohio State's going to come in here and kick our ass. Like, what did you think he was going to say? Like, he went out there and just like they're like, give this guy a couple lines. Like, got the crowd all fired up. And then Ryan Day after the game acts like same thing. Acts like everybody in the country came down on his program. Everybody thinks we're soft and we're not tough.
Bill, have you not said that before? Have you not said that? You talk about the why people talk about the reasons why Ohio State has lost to Michigan the last 2 years. It's been about people have been consistently talking about their toughness in the trenches, and I'm sure Lou Holtz had a lot to do with it. But it's not like it was a false narrative that he threw out there.
I'm just saying to cry over what Lou Holtz said on national TV is in the same like Ryan Day and Sharon Moore might not have been like next to each other on the field, but they were in the same stadium. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Like
Ryan Day was in like 300s level, Sharon Moore, he was like field level, right on the 50.
Okay. But again, let's not act like they're miles apart. Like you're like, oh no, it was fine.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
All right. You're both soft. That's what I think.
I need some popcorn.
Wait till next week.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna wear a ref's outfit, and I'm just gonna have a whistle and be like,
"No, here's the problem. Actually, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Here's the thing: we don't Gene's been praying for this for like years, and it just doesn't happen. And I don't think it's gonna happen this year either. We don't we'll be passionate, but we're both very respectful about it. Like we don't get nasty. Like Gene wants us to, but it just doesn't happen. We both have a very high level of understanding of college football. We understand what the rivalry means and obviously what it means to him, what it means to me. But it'll get heated. We'll yell and everything. And but at the end, we're always going to laugh. Like it doesn't get personal. Gene wants all the claws out. Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
I will say this, and I'm going to say it now before we even get to next week. Last thing I'll say about this game. Ryan Day loses next week. His seat should be scorching hot.
Pack it up, baby.
And I also think that regardless of what happened, if Ohio State loses next week, I think Ryan Day should be gone. I'm not going to lie. And the other thing is that, I don't know if we see Jim Harbaugh after the season. So I think it'd be absolutely insane. I think we could be talking about Ohio State and Michigan having coaching vacancies going into the offseason.
That'd be wild.
But here's what I'll tell you, though. And this is back to what we talked about earlier. I will say this. If that does happen, the two guys that are going to take over those programs are both already there.
Yeah, I think Hartline would step into it. Who would you have? Mike Hart?
No, they're going to have Deshaun Moore.
Oh, okay.
Or because then Mike Hart would just go to OC, and then Sharon Moore is going to be the head coach, and everybody else will stay the same. And I agree. I think they gave it to Brian Hartline, so it would be kind of weird. But I do think if that does happen, I think both coaches are already on the staffs. If
Ryan Day stays at Ohio State and Harbaugh goes to the NFL, Michigan should hire Lou Holtz. Just saying.
You guys aren't tough, Ryan.
Oh, look at this poll. All right.
Here we go. No BS. We got to pick up the pace a little bit here. So I don't want to say it's a big surprise. I was trying to type it out. Cottrell typed it faster than I did. As soon as I saw Missouri at 9, I kind of knew where the top 4 were going here. Georgia passes Ohio State to go to 1. I feel like I don't know. I feel like we're kind of stuck there. If I'm being honest, I think Cottrell might think a little bit different than I do. I don't know. I don't know if Ohio State beats Michigan if they go back up to 1, unless Georgia. I mean, because if Georgia beats Alabama, I think they just stay there. That's just my opinion. I think you're locked into SEC at 1. I think whoever wins the Big Ten is locked into 2, and then we buckle up for the chaos behind it because I think that's what we're headed towards. I think Georgia 1, Michigan, Ohio State 2, and then I think 3, 4 are anyone's guess at this point. Obviously, if Alabama loses again to Georgia, they're going to be out. And then you have the race of Florida State, Washington and/or Oregon, and Texas for 2 spots. I have my, I'll let you guys go over it. I have my strong opinion on what's going to happen, but I think there's the next 2 weeks are going to be a lot of fun. I'll say that.
I think for me, just kind of giving my foreshadow here, I think you're going to see the exact same playoff that you saw in 2014. You're going to have Ohio State. And this, Alex, you're going to be happy about this one because I'm showing you guys some love here. I think you have Ohio State as your Big Ten champions. I think you get Oregon as your Pac-12 champions. I think they get in. Florida State's going to be your undefeated ACC champ. And I do think Alabama is going to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, and that's going to lock them into the playoff. And I think Texas is going to be pissed because they're going to be a 1-loss team that beat Alabama, and they're not going to be in. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles. As far as these rankings go, my one, the glaring issue for me is Tennessee being at 18. I don't know how they're still there. Again, their best win so far this season is Kentucky. Notre Dame has a Duke win when they were at full strength. They also beat USC, and talk about how you feel about USC here in quite literally 2 minutes. But that USC is a better team than Kentucky, no matter what way you slice it. So I do have some issue there. And then the other issue I got is, as good as Missouri is right now, them being a 2-loss team and being ahead of a team like Louisville is just disrespectful. So I just think that Louisville should be there at 9, and especially if we're talking about a team that I know they lost to Pitt, and I'm fully aware of that, but they're going to be headed to the ACC championship game, and they should really have a shot to even be in that contention for the CFP. I think at least, especially if they beat that Florida State team. But them being at 10 really shows me, even if they win the ACC championship, I don't think they got a shot at getting in.
No, I don't think they have a shot at getting in either. But here's an interesting, crazy little thought that I was looking at this. Oregon State sitting at 11. In the next 2 weeks, they have the number 5 team in Washington. If they win that game, I'm assuming Oregon would jump up to the number 5 at that point. And then they have a number 5 Oregon team next week. If Oregon State wins both those games and the Pac-12 championship, what are the odds of them? Obviously, that gets them into a New Year's Six Bowl, but a lot of things would happen. But what are the odds of Oregon State possibly jumping into that top 4 as a 2-loss team?
I'd say none. They'd have to have a lot of – I don't even think a 2-loss Pac-12 champion gets in over Ohio State or Michigan with 1 loss.
Nope.
All right, yes, and
or Georgia, for that matter. Georgia or Bama. Well, if Bama wins the ACC, I don't think they get in over a 1-loss Georgia.
Okay. But I do agree with you on Tennessee for sure. I mean, like I said, their best win is against Kentucky. They have 0 ranked wins. They should not be in the top 25. They lost by 2 possessions to a Florida team that's has a 500 record and may not even go to a bowl this year. So that pretty much tells you what Tennessee's inconsistencies have been this year. I'm okay with Utah being ranked. I feel like Tulane should not have dropped after winning last week. I think they should be above Kansas State, right behind UNC at 21. That'd be probably the only change besides Tennessee dropping out is I'd move Tulane up a few spots. That 9-1 record after you win last week and then you get dropped a spot, that's a little bit disrespectful, But I'm honestly okay with everything. I do think Missouri is a better team than Louisville. I think Missouri is right now the best 2-loss team in the country, being one of those losses to the number 1 team, Georgia. I kind of balance that out as not really counting that against them. If you lose to the number 1 team, you probably should. So like I said, Missouri, I like them. Alabama is definitely going to be, move this week, I think. I don't know, man. These polls are just, I feel like there's no rhyme or reason anymore. They're kind of just drawing names out of a hat past the top 10.
And the other thing, I say it every week, but God damn it, can we put some respect on James Madison? Like, what do they have to do to be in the top 25?
It's getting annoying that you can't even rank them, but you have people with ulterior motives in that room to keep having people like Ohio or Oklahoma State, Kansas, Utah, Tennessee, Notre Dame stick around. They're all sticking around for the same reason, because it's allowing certain teams above them to sit there and say they have ranked wins. Cottrell asked me this earlier, a couple weeks ago, and could you find me 25 better teams than, somebody? I think I could find you 25 better teams in Tennessee. I do. North Carolina, I think, is kind of in the same boat. Like everybody 20 through 25, and then give me Tennessee. I think there's 25 better teams in the country than them right now. I do. I'm not going to pick on Tulane. I'll take Tulane out. But don't tell me James Madison couldn't beat some of these teams on a neutral field. They could. I'm telling you, they could. It's getting a little out of hand with the political positioning of some of these teams at the bottom. Iowa 16, really? Come on, man. They averaged 10 points a game.
They've only allowed 7 points the last 2 weeks. Their defense is what's getting them that ranking.
I guess, but they've also they haven't.
If you put Iowa on the same field as, let's say, I won't even go top 4. If you put them on the same field as even Missouri, they probably lose by 2 scores.
They're getting nuked. Exactly.
If you put a team like Kansas State or Utah on the field with one of those top teams, they could at least keep it competitive. And I get it, you got to go off your record and things like that. But let's use some common sense here. I'm fine with even Arizona being ahead of Arizona, Notre Dame being ahead of Iowa. If Iowa's at 20, I don't have any issue with it. But
yeah, well, here's the thing: Iowa's already got a spot in the Big Ten championship game, so I think that probably has a little bit of push behind why they're ranking as when they are.
And wait till you see what happens. I don't care if they play Ohio State or Michigan; they're at least a 21-point dog when that line comes out. I promise. And
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying
they're getting smoked by both those teams.
They got stomped by Penn State. Or was it Penn State that absolutely demolished Iowa?
Yeah,
who was
30-0. Was that the game?
Yeah.
Drew Iowa had 4 touchdowns.
That's Penn State's.
Iowa's
Penn State's
win.
very one-sided offense. What do you think Ohio State or Michigan are going to do to them? It's don't.
No, and I totally agree that those two teams are going to demolish Iowa. But I'm saying is because they are in that championship game, I think has a little bit of bias to why they are ranked as high as they are. That's my only what I'm saying.
You just can't.
I hear that
16th best team in the country. You just can't.
They're at 16. I'm looking through their schedule right now, and their best to win this season is probably Wisconsin.
Well, no, because Mordecai got injured in that game, so that game wasn't.
They lost to Minnesota. What are we doing?
Come on, man. What? And they didn't play Michigan. I know we didn't play them. You guys didn't play them either, right?
Nope. They're 8-2 with a loss to Minnesota. Yuck.
And
not
Penn
my
State.
16.
So they got lucky with the crossovers this year and didn't play the top 2. They played Penn State, who's a really good team, who's only 4 spots ahead of them, and they shut them out 33-0. It tells you all you need to know right there. It's just they're nowhere near that tier of team, nowhere near. But I think the rankings are obviously going to change this Tuesday night, which is going to be, I think a little bit. I think we'll start to get a little more clarity depending on what happens to the Washington-Oregon State game. Honestly, Alex, if I'm you, I'm rooting for Washington in that game. You don't want Oregon State to win that game. That hurts your resume.
Well, I know it does. But we'll talk about that game here shortly. Oh, this is such an ugly graphic.
Hey, I tried to be Switzerland here, but
Cottrell, you own this. You're the one who moves people. You could just say, you know what, Bill, whatever.
I know, but it's a democracy. I'm not.
If it was a democracy, then they would have been moved over. Because I'm saying yes, and Bill's saying no, and Gene is saying yes, and you're like,
I don't care about Gene.
I know. I'm just saying. It is technically 1.5 versus 1, and then we got Switzerland chilling over here like Swiss cheese.
Yeah,
All right.
All
I
right,
gave
let
my
me-
opinion on everything already. I gave you
Alex.
guys my opinion 2 weeks ago. I said if Bama beat, I think at the time it was LSU, I was like, I'd move them over. Now Oregon, the following week they beat USC. I'm good with them coming back over as well. But then all hell broke loose because I forgot who we were talking about, but we're talking about a USC win, and then Bill went on his tangent, and now we're here.
USC hasn't won a game since Labor Day. Like, it's ridiculous. Alex, let me ask you this.
Oh boy.
If Michigan had one loss and had a win over Penn State and Rutgers, who was 6-4, should they be on that side?
Yes.
Yeah, you're lying.
No, dude,
because I wouldn't even make that argument.
Penn State is a top 10 caliber team with 2 losses coming to the 2 and 3 teams in the country.
Penn State is better than any win you have. Keep going.
Correct, because and that's not like I said, I didn't make the schedule. Oregon, Dan Lanning is not there. Ooh, let's put this easy team on the schedule.
All right, we're not doing that. Let's keep going.
What I'm saying is that it's not the fact that
no, this is factual. That's the thing.
It's the fashion that we're winning. Like I said, Michigan, if they lost to, like I said, Ohio State next week, I would still leave them over there.
No.
For what?
Exactly.
Because there's always because of Ohio State losing. That's a moot point. I'm getting off topic on that. So let's go back.
Let's go. Your
okay,
best.
So let's
not go down that road. I see how that road ends already. So your best win is Utah, correct?
Arguably, yes.
Your second best win is a 6-4 USC team, who is not good.
Aren't they 7-4?
I think they're 6-4.
Didn't they have that extra game? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yes, 4-loss USC. Yes, I'm listening, Bill. Okay. Keep going.
So my point is, if you would give us a random loss, our resumes would almost be identical. We'd have a slightly better win than you with Penn State, and our second best win would be a 6-4 Rutgers team who's not good. There's no way, and I would never even argue this. There's no way I would argue Michigan should be on the contender side, and that's what you're arguing for right now.
No, I'm arguing for a team that has a top 10 offense and defense, and that every single college analyst that gets paid actual big bucks like we should be, who are giving their opinions, are saying the same thing. Oregon is the head and shoulders favorite to win the Pac-12 championship over a team as y'all have on the contender side. They don't even pick in Washington, who y'all have as contenders, to win their own division or win their own conference. Like Washington,
Oregon head-to-head.
But again, we've all agreed with this. Oregon was the better team, and we're going to destroy.
That's fine. But I don't disagree. But the ending of that game,
I wouldn't say destroy for the record.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to destroy. It's going to be
destroy.
But you pick Oregon to win by 21 against everybody. Washington,
true,
still has the 0 in the loss column. You guys don't.
I'm just saying there is going to be a 1-loss team in the college football playoff this year, possibly 2. And the fact that there is not one of them on the contender side is a little bit erroneous to me. Like I said, even if Alabama was moved over, I would be cool with that too.
Alabama's the one I think you make the argument for, because I don't think you make the argument for Texas either. Texas has looked shaky since they beat Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has 2 losses now.
They've had backup quarterbacks playing. I think, you keep winning games with backup quarterback. Now Quinn's back. I'd throw them over.
They won 1 game with a backup quarterback.
It's been 2.5.
2 games.
It was
2.5.
And the Houston game went down to the final possession. They almost lost that game.
It did. So, but Quinn's back now. That's why I throw him.
And they didn't look
but Jonathan Brooks is gone. Jonathan Brooks
is gone. And they didn't look. They almost lost last week.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, like I
said, you want to make an argument for Alabama? I'll listen to Alabama. The other 2 need to do something else for me still.
I've made my case for Alabama weeks ago. They've had 3 ranked wins since they've been pretenders. Like I think that's plenty resume. Oregon, the way that they've looked, how they beat USC, I'd be okay with it. I know USC is not the measuring stick, but I'm just giving.
Then why do we keep using it?
Because USC has a top caliber offense.
No.
Defense or not?
They have a top quarterback. They have decent wide receivers, running backs, and the rest of the team stinks. They're 6-4. Like, you're not. This isn't like Bo Nix versus Caleb Williams 1-on-1, and Bo Nix won. Like, okay, cool. Like, Oregon gets put back over. Like, I keep hearing, I don't want to. We're not using USC as a measuring stick, but that's what you guys keep doing. That's your second best win. They're 6-4. They have not beat a good football team this year. They haven't.
I'd say Utah is their second best win, but
who's their first win? Who's their first best win?
Oh, I guess. Damn.
Yes, my point exactly. We're just not there yet. And this is coming from the guy who's picked Oregon to be in the Final Four and win the Pac-12.
It's not who they're playing or who they're beating. It's how they're beating them. These games aren't even close. Like, they're playing
you
high
guys
school
just
teams,
beat USC by 8 points.
And they were up by 20. What was they? Over by 20 at one point and took the foot off the gas.
And then they came back. They didn't take the foot off the gas. USC just started scoring.
Yes, they did. They just handed the ball off the entire fourth quarter.
They take Bo Nix out. They take Bo Nix out of the game.
No, because they wanted to get him some experience handing the ball off.
They take Bucky Irving out of the game.
Actually, they did take him out late in the game. Yes, they did.
The last drive after they got the ball back, it was over. See,
you didn't specify when they took him out.
Starters are in, and they're still trying to score. They're still trying to play and win.
Alex, for the record here, I give you a lot of shit, but I'm on your side with this one.
But you have the power. You could literally say, Bill, right here, buddy, and then move him over yourself at your home.
China. This isn't China. Sign to take shit. This is China.
Well, apparently it is because you're the one deciding who goes over there.
No, you just said it's got to be unanimous. You got to earn my vote, sir.
Well, guess what? Michigan and Ohio State don't deserve to be contenders then. Not unanimous. Bump them over.
It's like a dodgeball.
You know, like a stand on there.
You got to get Chuck Norris to give you the thumbs up.
Yeah. It's a bold move, Cotton.
See how it works out for him. We got to move on before I freak out.
All right, we got some recap. Well, not recap. Some previews
we got previews and then pick them. We got to roll here. The new graphics, I will give Alex credit for these. These are banging. This is what we're going with. Sweet. This is what we're going with for the rest of the year. The battle of the state that nobody cares about, Kansas. Kansas versus Kansas State. Jayhawks got some good news this week that Mr. Daniels is going to come back next year. So Kansas could be a team to watch out for next year. That being said, why does the name of this rivalry game escape me? I know it's for something. Anybody know? Anybody? Bueller? No. Shit. See, nobody cares. Told you. Shit. Nobody cares about Kansas. I think it's gonna be a really good football game. I'm going to lean Kansas State because I like their defense a lot more than I like Kansas's. But this will be a very entertaining game. I'm telling you that right now. I think this is a 3:30 game. This has the chance to probably be like the sneaky best game of the weekend type thing. So I like Kansas State here a lot.
Sunflower Showdown.
Boom. See, that's a horrible name. That's why nobody knows it. That being said, I will be watching the Sunflower Showdown. I will, like I said, I like Kansas State here. I like their defense. I think coming off the heartbreaking loss to Texas is tough, but I think they kind of found themselves in the second half of that game. So I like them a lot here. I think it's a very entertaining game.
Kansas State is going to spank Kansas in this one. I got Kansas State. I think they cover here. Alex, I'm sorry I cut you off. I didn't know you were about to start talking there. But Kansas State has won, I believe it's the last 14 matchups in this rivalry, if that's what you want to still call it. I think Will Howard is going to be able to air the ball out. I think Kansas State's going to move the ball effectively. And then defensively, you talk about, you liking Kansas State's defense. I think they're going to force Kansas to turn the ball over a couple of times. So I like Kansas State to win. I think it's a 2-score, maybe a 3-score game. And I think Kansas State rolls.
Coachella, Kansas State taking all the sunflowers.
So here's the real question, though. And I was kind of reading last night, and I haven't seen the update this morning. But apparently Jason Bean is a game time decision for this game. Have you guys heard anything differently?
He did get hurt last week. I thought it looked bad last week. I didn't think he was going to play, but I haven't heard.
Yeah, no, they were talking yesterday that he is a game time decision for this game, and I think that's part of the reason why Kansas State is 10.5, 9.5 points right now as the spread. I don't know if Bean plays. If he plays, this game could go either way, and I completely agree with Bill on his take there. This game is going to be close, come down to the wire. But if he does not go, we kind of saw last week with Cole Ballard, their freshman.
He's not playing.
He's not playing. Okay.
Well, he's not starting. He's not starting.
He's not starting. Okay, so we'll see how the game goes throughout.
He ain't
but we
playing.
saw what Cole Ballard could do last week. He went 9 for 20. You know, obviously he was thrown into a situation in a tough game. You know, I'm sure he didn't expect to get thrust into that situation. I know he went 9 for 20 with an interception. You know, he was able to, you know, take some drives down and score late in the game, but that was mostly behind Devin Neal. You know, and his 965 yards rushing this season. You know, Kansas is going to have to give Devin Neal the ball a lot this game to stay close. Kansas State's defense is too much for Kansas's offense. I mean, they showed what they were capable of against Texas, and a game that I feel like they probably should have won. You know, a different coaching decision in overtime. I think things may be a little different, but that's not here nor there. And, you know, Will Howard for Kansas State, he truly is a leader. He's playing above and beyond any expectations that were set up or expected of him at the beginning of the year. And like I said, I'm not sure about the 10 points, but I do think Kansas State definitely pulls this one out. You know, their defense, their defense is top notch. And I think that this score is going to be probably somewhere around 31-17 if Bean does not play. You know, if he does come in second half, I think the game is more like a 7-point game, but I do think Kansas State does win pretty easily.
Right side of justice.
Well, honestly, it's that Bean. You know, it's the issue of if Jason Bean's going to play or not. It's too wishy-washy for me to make, you know, a good call without knowing full information if he's going to come in late or not.
No, I mean, you still said Kansas State was going to win comfy, so I'm saying we're on the right side here. And I think with Jason Bean specifically, regardless, even if he plays, I mean, even if he doesn't have a concussion, like I think his brain's scrambled a bit. You know, it looked bad last week. That's
true.
So next up, we're going to the Pac-12, Alex's backyard.
Another game that doesn't matter.
Number 22, Utah Utes taking on the surprising number 17th ranked Arizona Wildcats in Arizona. I am picking this game, so I am not going to get too much involved in the discussion of this one. But I do think this is another, you know, really well played football game. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring than people think. I'm not sure what the official over under is on this, but I would lean towards the under. But I think Arizona is playing great football out of nowhere. Utah is still, you know, I think a lot of people keep saying Utah might like fall off now and you know, maybe not show up. That is not who they are. Kyle Whittingham will have that team ready to go. They will show up. They will play max effort like they always do. And like I said, I'm not going to say too much more because I'm going to pick this game in a couple minutes here. So I will hand this over to you two gentlemen, and you may discuss freely.
Mr. West Coast, go ahead.
Let's do this. All right. So, you know, Arizona has been one of the hottest teams, you know, in the country, you know, jumping up through the college football rankings. I mentioned them a little bit last week. But over the last month, they've gone 4-0 with, you know, averaging 35 points per game since the overtime loss to USC. And they beat 3 ranked opponents along the way. You know, Washington State, when they were ranked at 19th, Oregon State, who is number 11 in the country right now, and they've also beat UCLA. So they honestly, their offense is rolling, their defense is doing what they need to do. You know, they're a multi-capable offense. You know, if you shut down the passing attack, their run game is going to pick up the slack, and vice versa. So Arizona is one of those teams that going into playing them, especially in Arizona, you know, they're a team that you should be a little worried about. You know, I'm really happy that Oregon got to avoid them on the schedule this year, because Arizona is playing like one of the top teams in the Pac-12 right now. Now Utah, on the other hand, they've lost 2 of their last 3. All right, and you know, was shut out in the second half last week against Washington. Their offense is really kind of off kilter right now. You know, 2 questions for me in this game is, can they get, you know, Jaquindon Jackson going on the ground, only 29 yards last week. He is honestly something that helps their offense go and really helps kind of allow that passing attack to really flourish. And can Brian Barnes limit the turnovers? He has 5 turnovers in the 3 losses this season, and he's only has 2 turnovers in their wins. So if they can control the ball, Utah has a chance. But I do think Arizona, being at home, the way they're playing, they're kind of going upward trajectory. Utah's going in the wrong direction. I think Arizona wins this game. I think it's a field goal game, though. Arizona covers that 1-point spread, or what is it, 1.5 now? I think Arizona handles Utah, but I think it is a great game, and it comes down to Bryson Barnes and if he can keep the ball in Utah's hands or not.
I got Arizona. I think they want to tie one. I agree with you 100%, Alex. I do think Arizona's offense is going to look good, even against that Utah defense. And at the end of the day, I've been skeptical of Utah's offense pretty much all season. Even when they prove me wrong, I still have my skepticism. So I think Arizona wins a tight one. I do think they cover the 1.5 as well.
Utah is very Jekyll and Hyde. You're damn right about that.
Well, SEC country.
I am also picking this game as well. I feel very, very strongly about this game. I believe Cottrell is picking this one too, if I remember correctly.
I am picking it as well, but I'm just going to let you know right now, I got Georgia blowing out these Tennessee Volunteers.
I'm not going to waste too much time either.
No need to hide it. I mean, the spread's at 10.5. I think this is easy Georgia game. I don't care that they're traveling to Rocky Top. Doesn't matter much to me. I saw what Missouri did, and I see how much better Georgia is than Missouri. So I think this is going to be a pretty easy game. And to be honest, I think this is the easiest pick of the week.
I agree with everything he just said, so I'm not going to say it all again. I think Georgia's way better. I think Tennessee's done. I think Georgia goes in. Everybody saw the game against Alabama last year. They carried the goalpost in the river and all that. Promise you, that is not happening today. This is not that Tennessee team. Like I said earlier in the show, Georgia's firing on all cylinders and then some. I think Georgia goes into Tennessee and wipes the floor with Tennessee today. So I am Georgia big.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's defense allowing 15.6 points per game. That's kind of the telling stat for me. And with what we saw last week with Bowers and McConkey, both in the lineup healthy, and what Carson Beck was able to do with them, I don't see any reason why. I'm actually shocked it's only a 10.5 point spread.
It's nuts, isn't it?
I am too, and that's what worries me. Because
I guess Tennessee's at home. Honestly, that's probably the reason why they say the home team gives you 3 points automatically. So that tells you the spread would have been 13, 13.5. But yeah, I'm surprised with how low that spread is.
Oh, it's got moved down. It's at 9.5 now.
Even better.
Even more. Better. Jump on it.
All right. Well.
Ooh.
Number 5, Washington versus number 11, Oregon State Beavers. Matchup wise, glitz and glamour wise, this is the matchup of the week. College football playoff implications smothered all over this one. Can Washington stay undefeated? Can they go into Oregon State? Very difficult place to play. I think Alex will attest to that. And knock off an Oregon State team that's kind of still been staying under the radar here. Michael Penix Jr. versus DJU. I think this is a really good football game. I really do. I've kind of gone back and forth on this a little bit. I kind of see it both ways, and I said earlier, I think Washington's just begging to get beat, but I think Washington finds a way to pull it out. I really do. I don't know why. I think it's nothing more than like a gut inclination. I think they figure out a way to win this football game. I don't know how they do it. I think it's just another situation of them figuring out how to survive to the next week. So I think Penix, I just trust him a little bit more to make that one extra play when it matters than DJU does, than I do DJU right now. I do like Oregon State's defense a little bit better, and they are at home. This is a really tough game to pick. I don't know. I will turn this over to our Pac-12 expert here. 2 teams that I don't think you want either one of them to win, but you got to pick one of them to win. So
I know who Alex is picking.
Oh, no, you don't. You don't know anything about what I'm picking. Like, here's what you got to know. Okay, Michael Penix, he's got to be able to keep it clean this week. He had 0 interceptions last week, but in the previous 4 games, he had 5 interceptions. Against Oregon State, they will make you pay if you turn the ball over. Damian Martinez, the running back for Oregon State, he's ran for 261 yards in the last 2 games, 4 touchdowns last week. They're going to get a heavy dose of Damian Martinez on the ground this week. Oregon State's offense, honestly, when I was looking at their numbers, extremely surprised. They're number 15 scoring offense in the country at 37.9 points per game. when you look at an Oregon State team, you don't see them as that flashy offensive team. But looking at these numbers, Washington may have their work cut out for them today. They're averaging 453 yards per game. And both these teams are top 6 in explosive plays this year. I think this game, I'm not sure what the over-under is. It's definitely going to hit the over. There is possible rain in the forecast. And, depending on how heavy that Oregon rain is, really determines if they're going to be able to pass the ball or if it's going to be a run heavy day. And if that rain does pick up and it does turn into a ground game, Oregon State's going to run all over Washington. We were talking earlier this week, Oregon State's a 2.5-point favorite in this game, which tells us on a neutral field that the spread would be pretty much even. I want Washington. Oh, thank you, Justin. 72.5. I honestly think that the game 62.5. Okay. I do think that total hits the over pretty easily. I'm going to have to go Oregon State this game, though. 2.5-point favorites at home. DJU, yes, I know I need Washington to win this game. I'm not a Beaver fan. I hate the Huskies even more. DJU is going to do what it takes, and Damian Martinez is probably going to be the player of the week that's talked about all over the country after this game.
I just want to tell you that Cottrell got it right. When you first started talking, he literally texted me and said Alex is going to pick Oregon State. All right.
Wow.
There, he did.
Wow.
Alex, I know you. But, I mean, I like your reasoning, though. Especially if it starts raining, I definitely think that, Oregon State has a great rushing attack, and that's going to be key for them. The other thing is that Oregon State does have a better defense. So I don't even think it's crazy to pick Oregon State. Like, there's a reason why they are the favorites in this game. Like, so I don't think it's crazy or anything like that. I know where your alliances stand. And so I knew you were going Oregon State with me. Even if it's logical, I knew you were going Oregon State.
They average 3.6 sacks per game, man. Michael Penix is going to be under pressure. So he hasn't looked like the Michael Penix at the beginning of the season. So we're going to find out today if he's really going to be, that Heisman frontrunner or not.
Yeah, and no, I agree for sure. And Justin, to your point, the spread has actually shifted like crazy. You are 100% right. I just saw it; it's down to 0.5 point, so it's really basically a true pick 'em.
Yeah.
So all your logic makes sense to me, Alex. Like I 100% agree with everything you said. I'm going against logic here. I'm rolling with Washington. I just think they have the better quarterback, and in games like this, sometimes it often comes down to making that one play. And I think if I had to pick between DJU and Michael Penix Jr. making that one play, I'm going to side with Michael Penix Jr. every single time. So I like Washington to win this. I think it's tight. I do think, if the weather holds up and, it's not necessarily like raining, like very bad, I do think the over has a great chance of hitting. I know Washington is going to struggle to stop what Oregon State does offensively as well. But at the end of the day, I just think Michael Penix Jr., if he has to put up 40 points in this one, I think he's going to go out there and do that to, just give his team a shot at still making the college football playoff.
All right.
Got
5 minutes left. Let's get to pick them, huh?
Are we doing?
You got one more game?
No, I thought we were doing another one. That's fine. I mean, we don't have to do the game anyway. We got to do upset alert first, though. We will do upset alert, and I will start us here because it's the game that I thought we were previewing next anyway. Going Louisville at Miami. I think a lot of people see ranked versus unranked, and think Louisville might just walk through this game. It's at Miami. I think Tyler Van Dyke's going to start again. I think he's going to get his job back at home. Last home game for the seniors and everything. Sometimes getting emotional performances. Spread's only 1.5, which kind of tells you all you need to know. Vegas doesn't really like Louisville on the road in Miami. So not saying they lose, but I definitely think there's a good shot they go into Miami and possibly come out with an L, which would essentially lose their, end their season, and something that Florida State does not want to see.
Interesting, because I like that game as well. I do think Miami actually pulls that game out, but that's not the game that I'm going with. The game that I think is probably going to be the one that goes the other way. I like Purdue. They're 3-point dogs right now going to Northwestern. Hudson Card has actually been playing some decent football as of late. And that Northwestern team has played better than expected for sure. Don't get me wrong. I just think that Purdue is going to really just come out of nowhere and steal a win against that Northwestern team. So I think that's the one. No one's going to be tuned into that one, that's for sure. But I like Purdue cover the 3 points and ultimately win that football game.
All right. Yeah, for my upset this week, I like to look in the trenches for these type of games. And I got UNLV going into Air Force and taking care of business. Air Force is a 3-point favorite right now, but they've also lost the last 2 games. Only scoring, I believe, was like 18 points in the last 2 games. Offense has really gotten figured out by opposing defenses. I think UNLV, who's been on a hot streak lately, I think they go into Air Force and take care of business, and that's my upset pick for the week.
All righty, on to pick 'em we go. Get the updated standings up here. So Cottrell still leads by a game overall. Superdog I still have. Alex, what'd you do last week? You were kind of getting like
0-3 last week. I got 0-3 last week. It was not a good week for me. I can tell you that right now.
So is this? I guess next week's going to be the final week, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless you want to take bowl games into final standings.
It's gonna be tough, but I think we should keep like a bowl game record, though. I think
we'll for sure.
Yeah, we'll do something special for the bowl games for sure. We'll probably put something up on maybe even on one of the sites and let people join in as well. But yes, so we'll end it after next week then. So going into the last 2 weeks, Mr. Cottrell still has the 1-game lead, so he gets to choose.
Yeah, so I'll go first here, get my picks out the way. Bill, I'll let you go second as we gave our picks on the show on Wednesday, and then I'll let Alex round us out. But I'll go pretty quick here because none of the games that I'm going over are necessarily sexy. I like the favorites this week. Give me Bama minus 44.5 versus Chattanooga. I think they're going to try and get all the skill points as possible, try and boost their rankings going up into obviously they got the Iron Bowl next week, and then the end of the year against Georgia. I think Alabama's going to try and put those style points out there and beat the doors off Chattanooga. Next game, I like Georgia. I'll bump it down since we're here now. I'll take the 9.5 at Tennessee. Regardless, I think they cover both, but I think that game's a blowout. You'll see exactly why Tennessee doesn't deserve to be ranked, even though they're at home. Next game I got Ball State minus 12.5 versus Kent State. Kent State is probably the worst FBS program in the entire country, and Ball State has played tough games all year, so their record may not be great. They've lost some really tight games, and I think they're going to blow the doors off a Kent State team that's not great at football this year. Last game I got for my super dog, I like Maryland plus 19.5 versus Michigan. I think that this is 100% a look ahead game. And, with that same token, I think Ohio State and Minnesota, I think Minnesota covers the 27. So I could have picked that game as well. I think both teams are looking ahead. I just think Maryland covers by a little bit more than what Minnesota does. And so that's going to be my pick this week.
All right, I'm gonna start out on the West Coast real quick. I'm gonna take USC at home minus 6.5. I think with all the turmoil going on behind the scenes at UCLA, benching Dante Moore, a lot of rumors he's going to transfer back out, might go back home. Here for it. I think it'll have to be in Caleb Williams' last home game in the Coliseum. I know he's only been there 2 years, but with him deciding to play in it, I think I think USC finds a way to win. They only got to cover 1 touchdown. I think that's probably what they win by, some 7, 8, 10 points, somewhere right around there. I think it's a good game. So I'll take USC at home. I agree with Cottrell. Georgia minus 9.5. Love that even more. I think I think they go into Neyland Stadium and they blow the doors off Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee is that good. I think as long as Georgia comes out hot and on fire, I think this game gets really ugly quick. I don't like Georgia to coast. So I will take Georgia minus 9.5. Last game, the other game we previewed, I'm taking Arizona plus 1.5 at home. I think they actually win the football game. I like the way Jeff Fisher's team is playing defense. I think it's a little bit of a lower scoring game than people might anticipate. And like I said, I don't think Utah is going to roll over by any means or give up or not put out a great effort. I just think Arizona's hot. It's a team that they're one of the teams every year that kind of figure it out in the middle of the year, and they just start playing good football, and that's where they're at right now. So I like Arizona I'll take Arizona plus 1.5 at home. And for my super dog, Alex, I mean, no disrespect, kind of to echo Cottrell's, statement on his. I think Oregon's looking ahead a little bit to Oregon State next week against, at Arizona State. Arizona State's played a couple of the good teams really tough this year. I don't think Oregon's in any danger of losing this football game ever. I also think Dan Lanning towards the end of the game might get Bo Nix and those guys out to get them some rest for next week if they're up big. Arizona State maybe backdoors it, just steals me a couple super dog points. So I'll go Arizona State plus 24.5 at home.
Okay, that's actually a really good pick. So here we go with my picks this week. I got Louisville at Miami covering that one. What was it? You said a 1/2 point spread right now. It's pretty much a pick 'em. I got Jawar Jordan running all over Miami's defense. After that, I got Iowa covering the 3-point spread against Illinois. I picked against Iowa last week, and in lieu of Rutgers, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to pick against Iowa the rest of the year until that Big Ten championship game. They've only allowed 23 points in the last 4 games. That defense is unstoppable right now. Florida and Missouri. Missouri, that 11-point spread. I got Missouri taking care of business, covering the 11-point spread. Brady Cook, Cody Schrader, Luther Burden III is too much for that Florida defense. And Graham Mertz, you all know how we feel about him. And for my super dog, I went kind of for a Hail Mary this week. I got to make up some points. And this week, I'm going to put some respect on New Mexico State this week as 27 or 26.5 point dogs at Auburn. New Mexico, the reason I have this game as my super dog pick is that New Mexico State is a very run-heavy offense. I think they're going to try to control the clock. I don't think Auburn's offense, besides last week, has looked great this year. I don't think they're going to get up 4 scores with how well New Mexico State does with controlling the clock. And that's my super dog pick, New Mexico State covering that 26.5.
All right. Got just under the wire. We had to rush a little bit, but I mean, I think with the previews and obviously me and Cottrell already doing pickup always helps a little bit. So, before we end the show, anybody have anything? I was hoping we were going to have time to do something fun again, but I don't think we have time. So, any final thoughts before
we
rivalry
get
week
off
next week?
I'm curious to hear, and this should be quick, like 20 seconds, but who's your Heisman favorite right now? I think for me right now, I think it is Bo Nix. I think it should be Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has shown right now that he's the best player in the country, in my opinion.
I think you can make a case to give it to all 3 people between Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. I think how we finished. I think what happens the next 2 weeks matters. I will say that. I think depending on how they all play, Jaden Daniels has better numbers than both of them, but he's on a 3-loss team, so that's always tough. I do think that's probably your 3 finalists, though, and I'm fine with that. I think if they do it that way, I think they got it right.
They better send Marvin to New York.
Listen, dude, he was my preseason pick. He was my preseason
Mm-hmm.
pick, so I mean, it's I'm not going to be mad at that because I think he might be the best prospect in the country right in this year, but he's just had a couple games where he hasn't been great, but it's tough. It's tough. They usually only send 3, but we'll see what happens. I think it's Bo. I think it's Bo's to lose right now.
I agree. I think it's Bo's to lose. I picked Michael Penix at the beginning of the year. This last stretch run, he just has not looked like Michael Penix from the beginning of the year. And if Jaden Daniels, if LSU had 2 losses, I say Jaden Daniels is his front runner right now. But that 3rd loss really kind of blurs the water a little bit, and voters will look at that, unfortunately.
Do they vote before or after conference championship week?
Before.
All right. So I was going to say, if they didn't, I think obviously whatever would happen in that Pac-12 game that we think we're getting, I think would probably determine it. But if it's before, then, we'll see how everybody looks then, today and next Saturday. I think that determines it. But, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a close race. I think a lot of guys are going to kind of split votes. So it'll be interesting.
True.
But that is all we got for you this week. All of our listeners, we will not be back on before Thanksgiving, obviously. So wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Obviously, you 2 gentlemen as well. Cottrell, obviously, see you Wednesday, the night before. But like I always say on Wire to Wire, it does matter. When you sit down on Thursday, really be thankful for what you have. Like I'm thankful we finally started the show. Obviously, very thankful for Wire to Wire. All the people in my life, all the things that I'm gracious and grateful enough to have, my health, family, all that good stuff. So, at some point, just reflect during the day. That's what I always try to tell people. Just really sit down and, it is the holiday of being grateful for something. So make sure you take a time and recognize that, and recognize the people that you're sharing that day with, and be thankful for all the good stuff you have in your life, because it's, it all, like I said, it all matters.
I agree. And I'll be thankful that this Friday is the Civil War, Oregon versus Oregon State. So that game will be over by next show. So we'll actually have some pretty big results next show at the beginning. So I'm excited for that.
We'll have to do something about that.
But hey, let's go watch some damn football. All right. I got my bets in for the morning. I got to go make myself some money.
All right. Good show. We'll see you next week.
See you, boys.